Welcome and thank you all for joining our Beach Read Bash.
Woo!
Today's event is
Yay!
a collaboration between A Mighty Blaze, Novel Network, Adventures by the Book, and the Newburyport Literary Festival. So I'm Jennifer Entwistle and I am the co-director of the Newburyport Lit Fest. We usually have a live festival every April here in Newburyport, but this year we've had to go online, and it's actually been a great opportunity to team up with A Mighty Blaze to bring authors and readers together virtually. So before we begin this session, I'm just going to cover a couple of housekeeping items and then we'll get going. We are using the webinar version of Zoom. So that means that we cannot see and hear the audience, but you can communicate with us and with each other on the chat window. So please feel free to start chiming in over there. I see some people have already started. And if you do have a question for the panel, please submit that using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, because that will queue up the questions for Jenna, and I know she's going to take some Q&A from the audience towards the end of this discussion. So with that being said, I want to get started, and this is a different panel. If you've already been at the ones earlier today, this one has a twist because this includes our Beach Reads Bingo. So I'd like to introduce Susan Macbeth, who is going to explain our bingo game. Susan founded Adventures by the Book nearly 10 years ago in order to create a distinct brand of multi-sensorial events and travels with authors that have included a 2017 10-day trip to Germany with A Mighty Blaze founder, Jenna Blum. She also founded Novel Network 2 years ago, which offers a free online platform for book clubs to schedule visits with authors, either in person or virtually. Book Bingo is their signature event, which gives readers an opportunity to learn more about their 125 author members, which are growing daily, and they're excited and available to meet with book clubs. So Susan, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain our Beach Read Bingo.
Thank you so much and welcome everybody. I'm thrilled to be here. In fact, I was supposed to be on an adventure by the book in Tuscany this past week with Paula McLean and Frances Mays, which got canceled. So I can't think of a better way to spend my time than on the beach with all these fabulous ladies. So thank you. I'm going to quickly go over the bingo instructions, which you all received via email already. So I'm going to read through them quickly because I don't want to waste time. I know you want to meet the authors. So you're going to want to have both screens open simultaneously. So the Zoom screen as well as the bingo screen, so you can see both. The goal really is to have a fun interactive experience. It's not to take away from the authors. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on tech. If you have a difficult time figuring it out, don't stress about it. We want you to have fun. We're going to have more bingo sessions so that you'll be able to join us another time. There will be staff members on hand, as Jen said earlier, to answer simple questions. We're not going to go into deep technical support at this time because, again, we really want the focus to be the authors here. So how it's going to work is during the event, we have one person assigned as the bingo caller. And what they're going to do is they're going to type in to the chat screen what the bingo call is. So, for example, if the call is Sarah McCoy, you're going to go to your bingo card and X off the typed words Sarah McCoy. There is also an image on each bingo card of each of the author's books. So if we call Sarah McCoy, you're only going to X off her name. You're not going to X off her book jacket. If it's her book jacket, we're going to say Marilla of Green Gables, and that will be the book jacket image. So you'll get it once you see the card and once you get the hang of it. So if any of the authors or the moderators say any of the words on your card, that is not a legitimate call. That's just because obviously they're going to talk about their books and their names. So we want you to look into the chat screen. It's going to say bingo call : Sarah McCoy, and then you'll know it's an official call. Let's see what else. We're only going to play one bingo game. We're going to spread it throughout the whole event because we only want it to take a fun twist. We don't want it to take a lot of time. So we're going to give away 5 prizes. So everybody can win one of the author's books. So each of the author's books featured today will be a prize. If you get a bingo, all we want you to do is type bingo in your chat box. We have somebody checking those, and the first 5 confirmed winners, we will contact you at the end of the event or after the event to gather your information to ship the prizes out. So that's it. We want you to have fun. And now I'm going to turn it over to our hostess extraordinaire, Jenna Payon, who is an author, a songwriter, a Cape Codder, currently working on her first novel. She's also a media and special event producer, an on-air host for A Mighty Blaze, which is an all-volunteer team of writers founded by best-selling authors Jenna Blum and Carolyn Levitt to help other writers who are having a challenge publishing during COVID. So take it away, the fabulous Jenna Payon.
Thank you so much, Susan. This is so exciting. This is going to be so much fun. I wish I could play bingo, but I have to focus on you fabulous authors. I'm so thrilled to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of this, for some of you, Sarah, not so lovely day with the rain going on down there, but here where I am, it's sunny right now. I wish it were the Caribbean. It's not, but it's close enough. And I'm thrilled to have you. So I'm just going to get right into it. I am just going to introduce all of you with the books that we are celebrating today. And I know some of you have multiple releases, and we would love for you to talk to us about those at some point throughout the interview. But for today, we're celebrating Nicola Harrison and her book Montauk. We're celebrating Sarah McCoy's Marilla of Green Gables. We're celebrating Renee Rosen's Park Avenue Summer. We're celebrating Katherine St. John's The Lion's Den, which comes out very soon, right? Right, Kat? That's
June 30th.
June 30th, yeah, that's right, yes. And we're celebrating Karen White. Karen is a legend in this world, and we're so thrilled to have her today. And today we're celebrating your beautiful Dreams of Falling. Thank you so much for being here today. Hi, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Now, instead of doing bios, because honestly, that would take up our entire time today, because you're all so accomplished and lovely and wonderful. And I know this because I printed out all of your bios and read them multiple times, and I have to say they're extensive. So instead of doing a traditional bio, I'm just going to go around alphabetically, and I'd like each of you to introduce your book. Give us the 30, 60-minute pitch on your book. Tell us what it's about. If you'd like to include a little, tidbit of information about you, you can, but we're going to get to some fun personal things later. So Nicola, let's start with you.
Okay.
You're in the hot seat.
Hi. So my book is Montauk, if you could see it here. And this book takes place in 1938 in Montauk, which is a little fishing village all the way at the tip of Long Island. And it follows the story of Beatrice Bordeaux, who comes from a modest background but is married into a wealthy family. And at her husband's request, she's spending the summer in Montauk at the Montauk Manor with the other wives, while the husbands go back and forth to the city during the week and come out on the weekends. But instead of getting in with the high society women that her husband would like her to, she instead finds herself drawn to the locals, and that, let's just say, it causes some complications that unfold that summer of 1938.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Sarah, how about you? Tell us about Marilla of Green Gables. I love the concept for this book.
Marilla of Green Gables. I don't know. I'm sure there are Anne of Green Gables fans out there. I was a huge Anne of Green Gables fan as a girl. So this is the story of Anne Shirley's adoptive mother, Marilla Cuthbert, and it starts when she's 13 years old, and it basically tells her story, which is untold and left a mystery in the Anne of Green Gables series. But there's enough little nuggets that we kind of are curious about who this woman was. And, she's 52 when Anne arrives on Green Gables, and so that's 52 years of life. So this book gives you the story of age 13 through when we meet her at the start of the Anne of Green Gables series. So that's Marilla.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Renee, you're up next. Tell us about Park Avenue Summer.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Probably, I don't know if you can see. disappearing here. Probably the best way to describe this would be, think Mad Men meets The Devil Wears Prada. So this is a story of a young girl who leaves her small hometown in Youngstown, Ohio, and after her fiance has jilted her and her mother has passed away and she's got nothing back in Youngstown, and she goes to New York City, where she lands a job working for Helen Gurley Brown when she first took over as the first female editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine.
I love that. And Renee, I have to say, I was totally a sucker for the marketing on that book. As soon as I read Mad Men meets The Devil Wears Prada, I was like, wait, what? Sometimes that works so well.
We had to go for it, you know?
Yeah, I love it. And Katherine, tell us about The Lion's Den. It sounds so steamy and hot and awesome and like.
The Lion's Den is about a struggling actress waitress named Belle, who is invited on an all expenses paid trip to the Riviera by her old best friend turned gold digger, Summer. That sounds too good to be true. Well, it is. So from the time that she gets on the super wealthy boyfriend's jet with the other women who are invited, everything is not as advertised. Things are very tightly controlled. There's a lot of different things going on that are not above board. And Belle finds out that her friend Summer has become incredibly vicious. So that's the setup for The Lion's Den, and I won't say anything else because I don't want to give anything away.
No, of course not.
I want to add something is that I just finished reading this book a couple days ago, and Katherine Stockett, the author of The Help, wrote that it was irresistibly wicked, and I cannot think of a better description. You guys are going to love it.
I love that. Irresistibly wicked.
Yeah.
Karen.
It's really somewhat of a takedown of the super wealthy.
Yeah, I love that. Karen, on to you. Tell us about Dreams of Falling.
Hey, whoops. Oh,
sorry.
This is like I'm a ghost. I'm disappearing.
Yeah.
Yes, falling. Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
So
you know what? If you lean forward a little bit, it won't do it as much.
It's like I've got two dogs on my lap. It's very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there I am. There we are. Okay.
This is the joy of online.
But I'm barefoot, so it's great. I shouldn't have said that. Not wearing heels. So this book, Dreams of Falling, it is set in the South Carolina Low Country, in a small town called Georgetown, South Carolina, which is about 2 hours, an hour and a half north of Charleston. And it's about three best friends in 1951 who, all from different backgrounds, but they write their wishes on ribbons and put them into a hollow of an old tree that legend has it is a thin place. So if you put your dreams or wishes into this tree, that, a thin place is the closest place on earth between this world and the next, and it goes to where it needs to be in your wishes. And of course, all three women discover that, be careful what you wish for. You fast forward a few years, there's been a horrible fire and there's a mystery attached to it. And it starts out with the granddaughter of one of these women who finds her mother in the ruins of this house that burned. And she has to start digging through the past of her mother and her grandmother to find out this family secret.
I love it. Thank you all so much. These books sound amazing. I'm seeing the chat's already going nuts with people who are like, this is on my to be read pile. Can't wait. And I know we've got these towering stacks right now, right? All of us that we need to get to read, which is not a problem. And summer is the perfect time to do this. That's why we're doing this event right now. And obviously the whole, title of our event is Beach Read Bash. And we're using the term beach read, but we all know there is no specific thing that is a beach read, right? That encompasses a wide variety of books in a wide variety of genres. And we had a great discussion in our last panel about how, there's often a misconception that because this is a beach read or it's women's fiction or it's called a domestic thriller or it's romance or it's historical fiction, like that it's somehow not as serious as literary fiction or not as artistic. but I firmly believe that is completely wrong and so false, and we'll get into that. But I would love to know first, what in your mind makes for the perfect beach read? And what do you look for in that? Is that something you think about while you write? And I'm going to go around and kind of ask you all. So let's start with Renee. What are your thoughts on this? Sorry.
No. So when I think about a beach read or a good summer read, I think about being transported to another time, another place. I want an escape. You know, this is my time to relax. I don't want to break a sweat reading a paragraph at that point. And not that I don't love beautiful language and all that, but I want something that's accessible. And before Park Avenue Summer, I had written a really heavy book for me. And I needed something light and fun. And I think, you know, that's what I look for in terms of the summer read.
I love that. Katherine, how about you?
I think that what Renee said about it being accessible is so important. You don't want to slog through anything when you're on the beach. You want an escape. You want something that's easy to read, that goes down really easy and doesn't leave you depressed at the end of it. Yeah. So I definitely tried to incorporate a lot of those elements in The Lion's Den, and also a page turner. I love a page turner. And for me, a page turner, it can be, I may be turning those pages because of a romance that I want to see play out. I may really want this main character to finally stand up for herself, or it may be that I'm trying to find out who killed someone. But you know, somebody that can write to keep those pages turning is what I'm looking for in the summer.
And a lot of that comes down to craft, right? Of like having that really good storytelling craft that no matter what story you're telling, people feel compelled to continue it, right? Like that.
Absolutely.
Karen, how about you? I mean, I feel like your word is probably gospel on this, because I'm like, what do you have to say?
You know, I like to think of them as like palate cleansers. So, you know, for instance, I write, you know, sort of a heavier Southern women's fiction, and then I balance it by I do my Trad Street mystery series that has, you know, like there's a ghost element to it, and they're a lot lighter. And so I can write those not back to back, you know, I alternate, because I consider a lighter read that palate cleanser. I love them both, but again, like Renee was saying, you know, something very heavy, you need something different. So when I look for something to read for a vacation or something, you're right. I want it to be, I mean, any book I read, has to be kind of a page turner or whatever, but the subject matter, or even like, that's kind of when I go to more of the romantic comedies, or you know, those kinds of things. I don't mind drama, and, you know, beautiful writing is always welcome, but I think the subject matter, again, I need more of a palate cleanser when I'm on vacation.
I love that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's devoid of serious moments or you know, high risk circumstances. Every single, you know, book I think of that I love as a beach read has high stakes, you know, like we're talking about, you might have a death, it's just kind of the way that is presented to you is, you know, slightly, there's a different feel. There's a different feel with it. Sarah, how about you?
What all the ladies have said, I think something being transportational is absolutely necessary, and that sort of dreamy feeling you get when you come out of the book. I need that in the summer. I don't know why more than in the winter. I just need to feel like I have floated away somewhere and had maybe a more magical feeling, is what I crave in the summertime. And I think for me too, in the summer is when I would often go and read things from my childhood even.
Yes.
Because it was like I got to go back and play again. And I think we all, when we think of summer, at least I do, I think of my childhood. And I think everyone goes to their childhood. They think of, you know, the rainbow sprinklers and summer days, you know, on the slip and slide or whatever, you know, things like the pool. And so I think in that same way with our imaginations, it's nice to dip back into those lakes or pools, or, you know, sort of oases of imagination. And so that's when I would read like The Secret Garden again, and the Green Gables series always. And it would be like, I'd already been there, so I don't have to focus as much. I could just sort of float away. And that's what I think of summer.
Which is sort of summer in itself, right? That sense of nostalgia that we return to this. Like so many of the things we love about summer are things that we love from our childhoods, right?
Yes.
That like come back. That's such a good point. And I agree with you. I do the same thing of looking back at those books that have meant something to me over the years. Nicola, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I want to be transported to another place or time, like the 20s or the 30s, someplace that I don't, I want to learn about more. But I don't think a beach read has to take place at the beach at all. And I think you just want to be taken to a new place or time. And I think in the summer, a lot of people have more time to read, whether they're at the beach or at the pool or just sitting in their backyard. So I think that's just a luxury in and of itself, just to be able to read. So whatever I get to read, it's a luxury.
And one of the reasons we chose all these 5 Novel Network authors is because these are the type of authors that we want to sit on a beach and read with a cocktail. And I'm sorry, Renee, Rosen, but I really wanted to have a Cosmo ready. Yeah. I'm not opposed to an early happy hour, but it's 11 o'clock in San Diego. So a tad early for a Cosmo, but I'm going to
No judgment. No judgment.
No judgment. Hey, if anyone's got a cocktail, cheers. This is just water for me, but cheers. I love it. Okay, so I love all of your answers to that. Thank you all so much. You all, and the perfect example of what Susan just said, your books are all vastly different, right? They're all incredibly different. I always try to look for commonalities. And one thing I think that's a commonality in all of your books is this strong sense of place and this strong sense of setting. And whether that is, the actual physical location or the time period, or something plays a big role in that story. And I'm interested to know how much that plays. Like, obviously, Karen, you write in this world of the South, and the like that's one thing, not only, but you do return to that setting time and time again. And I'm wondering, for all of you, I'm going to have you answer this in a slightly different way. Is that something that drives you? Like, does setting drive you to create the story, or did the story exist either for this book or your larger work, and you were like, it has to take place here, or was it something that that just sort of happened organically? So Karen, I'll let you start this one, just because you return to this world and it's synonymous with your books.
Right. So I always say my books are character driven, but the first character that I come up with when I'm creating my stories is the setting, because to me, setting is a character, because you can't write the same story that you would write in the Mississippi Delta as you would write on Cape Cod. People are different. It's the way they talk, the way their experiences, their shared history, it's different. Both of my parents are from Mississippi. And again, like what Sarah was talking about, when you go back to your childhood, so that those are those summers spent at my grandmother's house in Indianola, Mississippi, just reading and hanging out with my cousins. And that really informs my writing, that wonderful feeling of being in a small Southern town. It gives me that, like, I'm home kind of feeling. And I think that's why I go back to that. Now I live in Atlanta, which isn't really the South. I don't care who you're talking to. But that's, that I can close my eyes and I can hear my aunts and my mother and my cat all doing their Southern girl talk. And that's what I latch on to, because that is a character. And I have to have a feeling for a setting so I can write about it. And I certainly love the South, so.
Oh, I love that. And you really can see that in in your work. That,
thank you.
I always know I'm going to get this beautiful, beautiful setting that sucks me in and lets me feel like I'm there. And I just love that. Nicola, the setting is in the title. I mean, it's Montauk. And your whole book is about this, the development of this the tip of Long Island.
Yeah.
That, you know, can you talk a little bit about that? Did the setting come first?
So for me, when I wanted to write this story, it definitely started out with the setting. I used to have a house out in Montauk, and I spent a lot of time out there. And then over the years that I spent time out there, I saw the little town change from this sort of mom and pop shops and restaurants, and they started to move out, and other cooler, hipper places moved in, and I just started to feel very nostalgic for this town. And I began to wonder what it was like at the beginning when people first started going out to Montauk back in the 20s and 30s, when it first became a destination. And the Montauk Manor, where a lot of the people stay in my novel, was actually just up on the hill around the corner from our house. And I'd go for runs up there, and I'd imagining what would take place there. And so it was all about the setting, and then the story and the characters developed from there. And this is my first book, so when it first came out, people would ask me the same question, and like, do you come up with the characters first or the setting? And I was like, I don't know, I've only written one book, but it was the setting. But now I'm working on my third book, and each time it has been the setting first. So I think that's
where is the current book that you're working on?
The current one is Laguna Beach, California.
All right. I'm very excited about that. I know, I loved, actually, I had stayed at the Montauk Manor for a wedding like a year ago, and I was like, oh, the Montauk Manor. When I read your book, I was like, hey, or the I don't know if it's still called that, but that hotel that's up, is it still?
Yeah, it's still called the Montauk Manor. It's different now than what it was back then. But
very different. I was like, it was nice to imagine what it would have been like in the 30s. Much more glamorous. Katherine, so obviously, like, you know, you have this thriller really that you've got in place, and I love that it takes place on a boat. Like, that just adds a level of stakes of like, that's the thing of like, you can't get out, like you got to jump overboard. Like, did that come, like, were you like, was that a device of like, how am I gonna put this, you know, like, how am I gonna up the stakes? Or were you like, I really want to write about, you know, this situation on
well, I actually, you know, what Karen said about the setting being a character, I completely agree with. And more than just the setting, it's the world. So I think about, the first thing I think about when I'm going to write a book is, what world are we in? And this is the world, the Lion's Den is the world of the super wealthy, the 0.0001%. The ones who are flying around on jets and yachts and all that kind of thing. And I took a trip many years ago to the Riviera, and I saw this world firsthand, and I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy, you know? And I thought about all the things that people will do to be a part of that world. And, you know, I wanted to set something there. And I was, for many years, thinking about, well, how do I tell this story? How can I, you know, have a character that comes from the outside and into this world, and putting it on a yacht in the Mediterranean, like you said, it locks the doors. It makes it a locked door sort of mystery in that way. So it was kind of the pinnacle of how you would set this world. The yachts, it stands for that world, because that world is its own yacht. It's its own very isolated, locked door world. So
that's so great. And it's such a wonderfully modern update of like the Agatha Christie, like, you know, or like the British mystery of like, we're in a country house, and you know, like we're doing this, like, that's just, yeah, it's such a fun update that's like cool and sexy and unique, and like that's awesome.
And I thought it would be fun because it's something that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
And so in that way, it's an escape, because you get to, it's a window in to this world.
Yeah. It's also a world I think probably a lot of people think they wish they could be a part of, but you really shy it of, you're making a strong statement of things are not what they appear, right? Like
Exactly. It makes you feel a little better about your own life.
Don't worry, you're not on a yacht, but it's okay. You don't want to be. Like, just keep us all calm.
Feel calm if you have a yacht. I will still go on yachts, just so you know.
Same. Feel free to invite me along. And Sarah, how about you? I mean, obviously your book is it's inspired by by a world that existed, which presents its own challenge of how do you reimagine this world that people are so familiar with and put your own spin on it? I'm wondering if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, going back real fast to what Karen said, because she's brilliant, you're brilliant. And I think that a setting in this digital age, we have a lot of visuals, right? We have a lot of pictures. We have a lot of what we're looking at things, but they're static. And I think that is the one way that literature breaks through that barrier, is by fleshing out. So we need my aunts were called my titis. I'm Puerto Rican. So my titis in the background talking. I needed my grandma cooking. I needed the smells and the sounds and the music. And those are all things that a setting, just a picture, can't ever give us. They can't just, we don't have that. And so through these books, you know, I had grown up looking at pictures of Prince Edward Island, never having gone, just seeing this island, you know, even on the cover of the Anne of Green Gables books, this sort of pastoral island beauty. And yet I didn't know what that felt like. And so really for me, writing this wasn't reimagining Lucy Maud Montgomery's world. It was more getting to actually go there in my imagination, because all I'd seen were sort of the pictures. And so I got to actually be there in my own head and see what this place felt like from Marilla's perspective. What was she smelling and hearing and seeing and thinking about, and what politics and history was going on around her that, again, gives it texture, right? It gives that narrative some texture. Absolutely. And so you're not just looking at a picture anymore. It's not just a backdrop. Right. And so that was really a lot of fun for me, to get to dig in and to fill in all those attributes of Prince Edward Island. And that was interesting too, in that Lucy Maud Montgomery created a fictional Green Gables. It doesn't really exist. So that's a fictional farm based on 3 different farms on Prince Edward Island. And then she created a fictional Avonlea, but she set it on a real Prince Edward Island in a real Canada. Yeah. And so I had to sort of juggle, like, what's the fiction? Like, I mean, for example, they grow potatoes. That is their main staple on Prince Edward Island. There are potatoes everywhere. Every meal has a potato. There is not one potato. This is a bingo game. So now you can go through your Anne of Green Gables book. Lucy Maud Montgomery does not write one potato.
Wow.
And I read her journals, and she says because she hated potatoes, because she grew up with potatoes. So she didn't write no potatoes in Avonlea or Green Gables or on Prince Edward Island. But that's not true. That's fiction. Yeah. Reality of and so I had to wrap my head around that, because that was really difficult. That was actually the hardest part of writing this, was balancing the fact and the fiction, and then recreating it through Marilla's perspective. I mean, I could go on and on about setting. No. I went to Prince Edward Island.
I was going to ask if you went to Prince Edward Island. Did you?
Yes, after I wrote the book. I finished it. I made it all fictional, and then I went and I just fact checked the chapters against, you know, I just made sure that this flower I wrote actually grew there, and then I took it over to her relations that still live there, her family members, and I passed some of the farming stuff through them, because I don't know the farming stuff. I don't know what they used to milk cows in the 1834. So I did do that. But after I'd written sort of the feelings again.
I love that. Thank you so much. I love the thing about the potatoes. You're right. There's not one. As soon as you said that, I was like, there's no potatoes in Anne of Green Gables. Like, I was thinking about that because I love food passages, and I always like vividly remember food passages. And I'm like, yeah, I remember the tea and the cake and everything, and like not the,
That's the closest she gets is the turnips. Matthew wants to plant turnips. Yeah, that's it.
Jeez. And Renee, how about you? Obviously, like, I mean, right in the description that pulled me in so to your book, Mad Men, like that era, we know we're in for a ride. And obviously it's, you know, it's historical fiction. It's driven. Can you talk a little bit about this and how?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I had written 4 previous historical novels set in Chicago, and they were stories that had to take place in Chicago, but I was so ready for a new setting. And I just fell in love with New York during the 60s, actually, after I was binge watching Mad Men. And so for me, you know, New York, and like Karen and others have said, definitely it was a character in the book. And, you know, I had also lived in New York for a short period of time. And I really needed to go back there and sort of see it through the eyes of Helen Gurley Brown, through the eyes of a young girl. But it was definitely the setting that came first. And then I had to find a story to set within Manhattan.
So you got to find the story, right? So you need somebody to tell the story.
Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about character on that, and see that smooth segue? No, just kidding. I want to talk to you guys about character, and specifically this book. If there was a character that you found incredibly easy to write, and why? And if there was a character that presented a really unique challenge, and why that was difficult to get that character right. And Katherine, let's start with you on this one.
I would say that Belle was probably the easiest to write. She's my heroine, because she's the girl next door. She's all of us. She's a good person at heart, who's trying to make it in the world and balancing, you know, her friendships. And she's got this friend who's changed over the course of their friendship. And I think that Summer, that friend who becomes the gold digger, was the hardest to write, but also the most fun to write, because I wanted to make sure that she was a 3-dimensional character, that she's not just flat evil, you know, because that's not interesting. And that also would cast doubt on Belle, and why on earth she would be friends with this person. So you have to see why they started off as friends, and why Belle has continued to be friends with her, even though Summer has more and more shown her true colors. So balancing Summer's arc over the course of the novel, and also not giving away too much in doing so, because it jumps back and forth in time. That was definitely the most challenging for me.
And Kat, just so you know, one of the reasons we founded Adventures by the Book was to not just read these books, but to go to the places written about in books. So if you make any connections during your book tour, let us know, because I'd love to do an adventure by the book aboard a luxury yacht. I'm just
Ooh, sign me up.
We're all coming.
Nice.
A big yacht. Sarah, how about you? Obviously, you know, it's centered around Marilla. You had your character. You knew you were going to write Marilla's story. Was it difficult to adapt the Marilla that you saw from the Marilla in the books? And you know, you presented her at a younger age, and any of the other characters. Go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, no, it was a process. Yes, I actually think Marilla was probably the most difficult to write, because I had to go through all the 8 Anne of Green Gables series again and highlight everything that Lucy Maud Montgomery had laid down the brickwork for her. And then I wanted to read Lucy Maud Montgomery's selected journals to see what kind of person was writing these characters, because that's part of who Marilla is too. So that it took, and then just to get into that, she's a darker person. I mean, I don't, there's something wrong with that though. We all have a dark side. Even, you know, Southern women, we have some darkness, which Karen and I are like, we got darkness, girl. So, you know, everyone has a darker side. And so I needed to dig into that side of her and show a hopefulness there, because I also felt like someone like Marilla could not love a hot-tempered, nobody orphan if she didn't empathize and sympathize with her creativity and that side of her. You just couldn't. You would be like, just shut it down. I don't understand this. This is done.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people get confused. They say, oh, well, Marilla was so stern and she was nothing like Anne. I disagree.
Yeah.
I think she was stern because she knew what it was like to be like that, and she had to shut herself. I don't want to give anything away in the book, but she had to turn off that light inside of her for reasons that the book goes, that Marilla of Green Gables goes into, and there's pain there, and that's what makes a person change.
Yes.
We're all born hopeful,
joyful,
and looking for rainbows and believing in magic. We all are. I don't care who you are, and if you say you weren't, you're lying, because we all are born that way. But through the things we experience in our life, we get jaded and hardened, and we're protecting ourselves. That's what we're doing. We're protecting our little rainbow light from getting hurt. And so we all end up adults the way we are because of how we protect that inside of ourselves. So that was difficult, and yet I grew so much writing her, and I loved writing her, and I loved finally having her story out. To answer your question, the easiest character for me, though, was Matthew. Mm-hmm. I love Matthew, and I think it's because I'm the eldest sister of brothers. So I have baby brothers, and they are just, they're annoying, and we fight, and I will put them in their place, and they are both 6'4", by the way. I am 5'3", but I will put them in their place. And I love them desperately. And so I understand that sister love, that desperate sibling love, when you want to kill them sometimes, and yet you would kill someone for them. You know, it's a very push and pull. And so that was a lot of, I loved writing him. I love him still, Matthew.
He's great. I mean, how can you not love Matthew? He's the best.
Yeah, but you know what? I have to say, if any of you ever have a chance to meet Sarah after COVID is over, she is totally rainbows, unicorns. She is the most loveliest, charming. She is one of those people that she is a joy to be around. She makes you feel special and adored. And she is, we have a nickname that she started because our last names start with MC, which she's my McSunshine sister. And that's what she exudes all the time. So all this darkness, she must be writing about it, because she certainly doesn't possess it.
See, and you know what, your check's in the mail, A, and B, I need you to come and move in with Doc B, and let him know this, because, and Karen knows too, because we've been out to dinner many times as sometimes I'm not so sunshiny to him, so we just need to maybe remind him.
It's all right. That's, hey.
You're so kind.
None of us are all sunshine and rainbows all the time, as much as we would try to be. Renee, you have some dynamic women in this book. They're so incredible. Do you have any characters that were easier than others or presented challenges? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So in Park Avenue Summer, I have a combination of fictional characters and real characters. And those two elements created their own havoc in my writing head. Allie, it took me a long time to access who she was. And then once I got a handle on what motivated her, what her drive was, what her journey was going to be, then I was sort of off and running. And I had a lot of fun with her. But she started out as a really dark, sappy character, and about 100 pages in, decided that was not going to be the right way to tell the story. So after a couple tries, I feel like I finally got to know her. And Helen Gurley Brown was a hoot and a half to write about, but there were problems there because it was so easy to fall into making her a caricature of herself. Mm-hmm. You know, here's this little woman with this big, you know, wig and the false eyelashes and the padded bra. And, you know, she talked about sex the way other people talked about the weather. Yep. And it took a lot of drilling down to figure out what her real story was and what made her tick, and how she was vulnerable as well as strong, and all the dichotomies and the layers to her. So she was a real challenge, and I had to catch myself every now and again from falling into just writing her as a cliche of herself. but they were both really, really fun characters.
Yeah.
And I feel like I learned a lot from telling their stories.
Awesome. I love that. Karen, how about you?
You know, I love to write flawed characters. It's my favorite kind of thing. And the trick always is to write a flawed character that readers can root for and sympathize or empathize with, without agreeing with their motivations, why, or they understand why, but they don't agree what they're doing, but they still have an affection for the character. So it's kind of a thing, you know, like Katherine was saying, how, you know, you don't want somebody to be a stereotype, you know, somebody who's all bad. You know, if you're writing about Adolf Hitler, fine, he was all bad. We all, you know, but people generally aren't like that. And so in this book, we have Margaret. So we have the three best friends. And I loved writing them because, like all best friends, they each add something to that relationship. Margaret is the one you want to hate. She has everything. She's born beautiful and rich and smart and an only child. Has everything. Yet when everything is taken from her, she doesn't handle it well. She really goes off the deep end. And then you want to hate her. And I had to come up with a way to redeem her. Yes. That was the hardest thing, but I think I did. You know, when that light bulb went off, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, you know, and that's sort of the twist in the story. But writing a character that, you know, everybody's going to hate, but giving them something to a redeeming value, a character trait, is when you figure what that is and how to make it happen. That is like the beauty of all books. But I also liked writing, you know, the granddaughter, Larkin, the main character, because she's the contemporary woman. She's trying to be strong and what the world expects her to be, but she has got so much hurt inside of her, and she doesn't know how to let it out or who to confess to or whatever. And so I love her journey. I loved writing her journey. I loved seeing her come into herself. And so she was probably my favorite character. Margaret was the most difficult character to write, but Larkin was my favorite character to write.
I love that.
And you get us so into your characters that I just want to point out is I never wear lipstick. But in honor of you today, Karen, I am wearing
that.
Cherries in the Snow.
That's terrific. Oh my God.
Wore a Revlon classic from 1953.
Yes, there you go. And it's still sold, but because my grandmother always said, you know, we used to always tease my grandmother that if there was ever fire in her house, she would die in it because you know, she'd always have to put her lipstick on and her makeup and her hair to go out to meet the firemen, you know, and she would never make it. So always, you never leave the house. You got to put some color on. Never leave the house without your color on. Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
You made me laugh my glasses off. Oh, God.
It looks good. It looks good.
Yeah.
The lipstick looks good.
Thank you.
And speaking of glamour, Nicola, you have this glamorous world that you're writing about, and you have a central character that discovers, you know, this world is also not maybe what she thought. What was it like populating that world? Like, it looks like you had so much fun with that.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I loved writing all of the characters. Probably my favorite character to write was Beatrice's best friend, Dolly.
Oh, she's great.
She was so fun. She was so ahead of her time, and she was opinionated, and, you know, she worked at her father's hat factory, and she didn't care what anyone thought of her. She was just her own woman, and she was also very complex. So I loved writing her. And then Jeannie was sort of like the villain of the story. But the funny thing was, as I was finishing up this book, I was about to get married in real life. And my fiance at the time said, well, my mom's name, you know, his mom is Ginny.
Oh no!
And the character was Ginny. And so at the last minute, right as I was turning in the manuscript, I changed her name to Jeannie because I adore my mother-in-law. And I was like, I'm not starting off the relationship like this.
No, you cannot do. You got to be careful about the naming of characters in that way. You're like, I can't like name this, so this character something that's too close to,
Exactly.
like.
The funny thing is now when I read, when I do a reading or something, and I read Jeannie, I think, well, it's really Ginny, because that's, in my mind she'll always be Ginny, because that's how I wrote the whole book.
I bet she loves your book though.
She's a big fan. She's great. She's a big reader, so.
And she'll have to always be nice to you, otherwise you could turn her character into something she doesn't want to see.
Oh yeah.
I love this so much. Let's take it. I'm going to do a question from. We're slowly. I can see actually that all of the bingos have been won, which is amazing. We're gonna keep talking for a little bit longer if that's okay with you guys. Not too much longer, because I know we told you like an hour, but I want to get another good question or two in. So this one is from the Q&A from the audience, from the viewers, and it was written, I'm going to alter it a little bit. It's from Lisa. I'm going to alter it a little bit to say either, what are you working on right now? Or her actual question was, what book have you not written yet, but plan to write someday? Or maybe it's not the book you're working on now, but what do you plan to write someday? So let's start with Karen on this one, because you got to think hard for this idea. I mean, like, is there a book you haven't written yet? I'm not sure.
Gosh, yes. Well, it's so fun because I had a plan. I'm finishing up the Trad Street series now, the 7th book. Also, I've just started a collaboration with Beatrice Williams and Lauren Willig.
Yes, which I
love. So 2
love
books,
them.
I love those too.
But while this whole COVID thing, and I thought I knew what I was going to be writing next, but apparently, so I had a book called The Night the Lights Went Out, and it's about suburbia, Atlanta suburbia, and it's a domestic thriller, if you want to call it that. I still call it Southern fiction, but whatever. And there's a great blog, and the main character is a 93-year-old woman who I adore, Sugar Prescott. And I just thought, my gosh, her take on, because I don't know if y'all follow the Next Door blogs in your neck of the woods, but it is hilarious reading what these people are saying. And I'm like, I have got to write that sequel to The Night the Lights Went Out. It has to happen. I already have a title, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and it's going to be set in the same suburb that the first book was, and it will be set during the time of COVID, because
are you gonna do?
It's already written. Just reading these next door, the things that people say are just like, you've got to be kidding me. This isn't my neighborhood. It's just,
oh my gosh.
So yeah,
so good.
But I got to finish this one, and then I just signed a contract for a spin-off series to the Trad Street series. So you know what they're going to be about? Apparently they're going to be set in New Orleans. So I think that was a throwaway comment that my agent was like, okay, yeah, sure. And the next thing I know, it's in Publishers Weekly. So I guess it's it's a done deal.
Yes.
Here we come.
Yeah.
New Orleans. Sarah, how about you? What's a book you haven't written yet that you plan on writing someday, or you want?
Well, I am a week and a half away from turning in my new book. That is actually a beachy read. It's set on Mystique, which is an island in the Caribbean, and I'm actually
girls trip. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. I was supposed to go, Karen and everyone. I was supposed to go. I was supposed to leave on March 30th and stay for a week and a half into April. But of course, the COVID. So now instead, I have a binder that is my Mystique binder, and this is getting turned in next week. So that's what I've just been sort of on in that place. You all know that realm where you are there and not there.
Right.
You're here and completely not here. So that it comes out next summer, summer 2021 from HarperCollins. That's what I just finished on. And then the book that I would, I've written a lot of female characters, and I would actually really like to write some men.
Cool.
This idea. My dad is one of 3 boys, And there is some drama that I have never seen in my life with women that goes down with men and brothers. And my dad is the eldest, and he's got two. And again, you have to be very careful, right? We talked about that because this is like family. So it wouldn't be my family at all.
No.
But I'm very curious to write men drama.
Nice. I like
to
that
see
idea.
themselves.
Well, how many men write about women's drama all the time? I think Turnabout is fair play, Sarah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that would be really fascinating, don't you all?
Oh, I think that sounds great. That sounds awesome.
And then in the meantime, we'll do a Caribbean adventure by the book, and we can share male stories.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I got to write. I'll have to write our other one. So we'll write one so that we can be invited to the party. Yeah.
Perfect.
In the Caribbean,
Yeah. Caribbean. We're good. We all want to be.
We'll go to the Caribbean on a luxury
yacht. On a luxury yacht.
Yes.
Drinking Cosmos with Renee.
I love it.
Or
Done.
mimosas with Karen.
Yep.
Yes. Wearing our lipstick with Karen.
We all have to dress up.
I'll bring the champagne.
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna say when we can drink champagne with Nicola's characters. So Nicola, what is a book that you would love to write? What is or a story you'd love to tell?
The book that is coming out next summer 2021, is called The Showgirl, and that takes place in the Adirondacks and in New York City. And there's a Ziegfeld girl, so that was really fun to write. But the one that I'm currently working on, like I said, takes place, I just started it, but it takes place in Laguna Beach. And while I've been researching for this one, I've got a lot of ideas. I'm kind of like on a California kick at the moment.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that maybe my next couple books will be set in California, but
Oh, yay.
Cool. I like that. Renee, how about you?
Well, I am just starting my copy edits on my new book that's coming out in April of 21 called The Social Graces. And this is a story of Alva Vanderbilt and Mrs. Astor vying for control of New York society in the Gilded Age.
I read that in your bio. It sounds so good. I'm obsessed with Alva Vanderbilt. I got
my God.
Newport. I'm so into her.
We'll have to talk because she was amazing. And Susan and I have already sort of talked about, we're thinking Girls Weekend in Newport.
Oh yeah, I'm in.
You know.
Also, hello, come to North Carolina.
We are, you know
Yeah.
what?
Right?
We've already talked to Karen and some of the other Southern authors to do a Southern adventure by the book. So, you know, we just need to get rid of COVID.
You know, I'm yours.
Yeah, really needs to get out of here.
The COVID.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Katherine, how about you?
Well, I'm in sync with so many of you. It's like we're like on the same wavelength. My next book is called The Siren. It'll be out this time next year. And it is set in the Caribbean on a film set on a private island in the Caribbean. The one that I'm writing right now is set in the Mexican jungle. And then what I want to do next is going to be kind of a love letter to California and in the world of horse racing in California.
Cool.
I have a girlfriend who is a jockey.
Yeah.
And so I've seen that world up close, and I find it incredibly interesting and think it'd be a really fun place to set a book. But I also would love to write something. I'm originally from Mississippi, so I also would love to write something set in the South. So I'm echoing a lot of you with all of this.
Yeah.
So we've all decided we're going south. We're going to Newport. We're going to the Caribbean. We're taking a luxury yacht to all four of those destinations, or three, whatever.
Absolutely.
We're just.
Well, you know, I'm Puerto Rican, so I got one island. I'm related to everyone, and that's the way all Puerto Ricans are. Everyone is my cousin there, so we got that covered.
Sarah is organizing the welcome party, and she is in charge of that.
Will your mother cook?
Yes.
There would be a arroz con pollo, like
Yes.
this big.
Yes. Well, the next W book is set in Newport, just to let you know, Renee, which is
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, they're restoring it's all about them restoring an old house. And
oh my God, we have to chat. We gotta
check. We gotta check
That
because
is exciting.
I'm sure you know about Alva Belmont's house, which
Yes.
has been undergoing a massive renovation,
Yes, yes.
led by the owner of Alex and Ani.
Go to Newport
Yep.
in April, and then thank you, COVID. So yeah, our research trip was completely so we're just looking at books, which is it's very hard to do, you know, just to do that. You want to immerse yourself into a setting. So
Karen, when you go, just make sure you do cliff walk, but be careful.
Yeah.
And wear sensible shoes, which I did not, and I almost died on cliff walk. But you know,
we'll give you guys.
Gave me a great scene.
I'll come down and give you my personal tour of Newport. It is my thing. It'll be great.
Oh wow,
awesome. We're gonna. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. We're gonna do a lightning round. Goodbye. And we're gonna do what I did in other panels, which is we're gonna. I'm gonna have you. Give me the name of one book you're either reading right now or you'd like to read right now if you're not reading, because I know many of you are doing events. And then and that's it. and then I'll do a little closeout. So Nicola, what are you reading right now, or what would you like to read?
Okay, I am currently reading The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna.
Oh, good one.
And I am really excited to read Susie Schnall's book, We Came Here to Shine, which just came out.
Yes, she is amazing. She was on one of our earlier panels and it sounds so cool.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Renee, how about you?
I just finished Beach Read by Emily Henry, who was on here earlier. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I just started a book by debut author Christian Beck. It's called Courage, My Love, and it comes out in winter of 21. Really beautiful story set in Italy during World War II.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Sarah, how about you?
I just finished Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half and just died.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so good. It was so brilliantly written, and the prose it's like Toni Morrison is back. Like wow. It was wonderful. And then now I'm about 5 chapters in. I shouldn't say that. I'm reading an ARE of my dear friend Melanie Benjamin's forthcoming The Children's Blizzard. It is so good, and it's coming out January 2021, and
such a great concept.
It's so wonderful. It really and she writes historical fiction, and it's really good. So
great. Katherine, how about you?
I just finished Diana Giovanazzi's The Woman in Red, which comes out in August, which is about this amazing woman who fought with the Brazilian resistance back in the 1800s. It's a true story. It's an incredible story. And the next thing I want to read is Beach Read. And I know that she was on earlier. It's good to hear that it's really good, because that looks like a good, lighter read.
Karen, how about you?
So I just finished reading an ARE of Beatrice Williams, Her Last Flight. It comes out on June 30th, same day as Katherine. I've loved all of her books, but this book blew my mind. It was one of the where you couldn't put it down. The story, the twist, the characters are just, her characters are just so.
She's amazing. Yeah, always.
She's incredible. She has 4 kids. How does she?
I don't know how she does it. She's incredible.
I know.
And she's the nicest person.
Yeah. And she's a great person. But I just started, because I actually have a book coming out in April. I didn't even mention it, called The Last Night in London. I don't know. I don't even remember writing that one.
You're like, at this point, I've written so many. They're all amazing. You can just assume that they are amazing. Like, no, I mean, but like, seriously, you have. I mean, like, you don't get to have that track record without me calling you out on it.
Yeah. But anyway, so
tell us about it. Yeah.
I love World War II history. I lived in London for 7 years, and this book is actually set in the building I lived in. But it's set in 1930s and 40s and modern day. And so I'm currently reading, and I wish this book had come out when I was writing this book, The Splendid and the Vile by Eric Larson.
Oh, I read that.
Churchill. I have such a crush. Don't laugh. I have a crush on Winston Churchill, okay? So, I mean, the guy was a genius. Just everything about him. It's just his decision-making, everything. And Eric Larson, nobody does what he does better, which is basically taking history, which can be very dry and boring, and making it read like a novel with twisty twists everywhere. He's phenomenal.
Narrative nonfiction.
He's amazing. Narrative nonfiction. Thank you. I couldn't think of the genre. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. But yes, it's The Splendid and the Vile, and it's fabulous. So
So good.
whether or not you have a crush on Winston Churchill, you will still love it.
Oh, can I just tell a quick, Karen? So I heard Eric came here and he read from The Splendid and the Vile, and let me just tell you, times 10. All of a sudden you have Winston Churchill coming out of Eric Larson's.
Oh, I can't even.
Yeah, who like Eric
was great,
Larson
let me
was
tell ya.
amazing.
When he did his Lusitania book, I heard him speak at the Savannah Book Festival, and he's funny. He's amazing. Yeah, crush there too. So.
Oh my gosh, ladies, this is so fun. I hate to end it. Like, I wish we could just keep talking, but we are going to continue. We are going to, you know, we're going to be in person hopefully soon, and we are going to, you know, be on an adventure with Adventures by the Book. We are going to be going to fabulous destinations and celebrating books and celebrating all of you. I want to say thank you one more time to Nicola Harrison, who's got Montauk. I want to say thank you to Sarah McCoy, who wrote Marilla of Green Gables. I want to say thank you to Renee Rosen, who wrote Park Avenue Summer. Thank you to Katherine St. John, who wrote The Lion's Den. Thank you to Karen White, who wrote Dreams of Falling and like 9,000 other books in existence that are all amazing, all incredible. And thank you for being, you know, a leading voice in women's fiction, paving the way for those of us who are writing. Thank you all for being here. And Susan, do you want to say, and thank you, especially I want to say thank you to Susan Macbeth of Adventures by the Book and Novel Network, and Debbie Hartlib of Novel Network, who produced the bingo and have been running the game. I want to say thank you to Jennifer Entwistle and Leslie Hendrickson, who are producing this session and running all the tech and helping out with the chat, and everyone who has made this, you know, happen. Thank you to everyone on A Mighty Blaze for making this happen. This is so fun. We are doing this in person next year, and Susan, you and I are going to plan that. You're going to help us plan this, and we're going to make it a thing.
Totally love that. And thank you to Jenna, who did an amazing job.
Yes.
Thank you. Great question.
One final note is these authors are all members of Novel Network. So I want to encourage people, you don't even have to be in a book club. I mean, really, if you loved any of them today, and how could you not, you can schedule a group of girlfriends, you know, your sorority, your church group, your library group, your work, and get a private Zoom session with these authors through Novel Network. It's free to join. They're fabulous. And if you want to purchase any of their books, because they are not touring, all their events have been canceled due to COVID. So we want to encourage book sales for them.
And I encourage you to do that through Adventures by the Book. Adventures by the Book has a special landing page right now. It is a small female-owned business, independent business we'd love to support. Thank you all. Support independent booksellers, support authors, support each other, be well. Thank you for sharing. This was such a joyful day. And thank you guys so much for sharing it.